So today's video is working on this 99 B4000 Mazda. So my uncle bought this truck and he bought it because it was only for like a few $100 because the wheel fell off. Whether it was a wheel bearing or something along, it looked like it failed right there. Something failed. We didn't get too many details on it, and this whole assembly just kind of went to shit. So I'm gonna try to salvage it because the engine runs, tranny runs, everything's good until the previous owner wheel came off on the highway, and then it caused all this. On the initial kind of looking at it inspection, it's pretty much this whole front end is gonna get rebuilt. New upper control arm, new brake line, new spindle, new wheel bearing, rotors, pads, calipers, and everything. That locking hub, new lower control arm, or just a ball joint because this one's replaceable if I can get it. And yeah, so pretty much this whole setup is going to be swapped out for something different, or for brand new, to get it back running. And you can see everything's just kind of toast. Shock got destroyed. The bottom of the spindle, so when the wheel fell off, it just dragging on the highway, destroyed this whole thing. And yeah, so everything that you see here is pretty much toast, and we're gonna see if we can save it. All right, take off this upper control arm. We got a 21mm bolt and nut on the back side. And I can't get this bolt out because there's these brake lines right there. So I gotta loosen up this left side, and this whole control arm will slide in, and at that point I can get the bolt out. Next I'm gonna go ahead and take off the shock since it's bent. Up here it's 14mm, and if the piston spins, go ahead and put an adjustable wrench or something on that. And the bottom of the shock is going to be a 10mm for these bolts on top, and then 13 for the nuts. So I'm assuming that the shocks come with this bracket pressed in like that. So go ahead and save these bushings. Maybe you can reuse them unless they come with a new one. So I'm going to keep all this hardware, and if need be, I'll save this bracket and press it into the new one. Next I'm going to take off this knuckle from your tie rod. Alright, so here's the whole knuckle stuff. Here's a broken caliper bracket, dust shield, wheel bearing, and the rear side of this. So I'm gonna have to replace all this. And I'm gonna see if I can press out this ball joint so I can save the lower control arm. And there you go. You got your old ball joint. Now that all my parts have shown up, I'm just waiting on the knuckle, but that's going to arrive here sometime in the next couple hours. But I can at least do some minor stuff right now. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take off these two hydraulic brake lines from this block. It's an 11mm. I would suggest getting those pipe wrenches, which holds on to like 4 or 5 sides. I don't have this size on me, so I'm just going to go with a normal wrench. Just gonna break it loose. To take this block off, there's a clip right here. You just slide it out with the open end away from it. Now you got the clip, put it to the side, and it should slide right down. And there you go. Here's the old line. And this is what this is supposed to look like. But you can see it got torn right at the where it was crimped on. Now with your new block, slide it up. You're going to insert your retaining clip. Just tap it in. And now slowly maneuver your lines to start threading. Try to get it as straight as possible so you don't cross thread these lines. Now that you got this bottom line in, now you work on the top. Alright, next we're going to throw this upper control arm in. So I got it into place. It's a snug fit. We're going to take our camber bolts. We're going to put the bolts in from the inside on both sides. Now with this lightly snugged, we're going to leave it until we put everything else on, and then once everything's resting, then we'll torque it down to its normal. It's going to be its normal resting area. So I didn't record a lot because I was messing with the tie rod earlier, and then I decided to mess with this knuckle, and then I got carried away because I was trying to figure out if it was even going to fit, because initially the top of the knuckle was like down here, and the bottom of the ball joint from this upper control arm was about like an inch away. So what I had to do was loosen up the tension on the torque rod, I forgot what it's called, but the torque rod that holds this whole suspension up. I had to loosen it to give me slack. Then I had to use a jack to lift it up, and I was able to get the bolts in. So now I'm going to torque down this backside nut. Now we're going to put in the wheel bearing, put on the 3 bolts. And there you go. Now you got your wheel bearing. So I forgot the pressure cord. What I did was loosen up the jam nut, count how many threads it took to take off the old one, mimic that with the new one, and that'll get us close to where we can go get an alignment. And now we're going to torque down this bottom nut. Now you can see we're aligned with the hole. And we just gotta stick a cotter pin right up in there, and then arrange the other side so it doesn't come out. And now you just hold this tie rod and then torque down the jam nut. Alright, with the new ball joint in the bottom, it's a 24 mil. And put this one down, do exactly what we did with the tie rod. Next thing, to get the orientation of this hydraulic line, the brake line, we're going to put the caliper and the caliper bracket on, and so we know how it's going to sit, so we can orientate this line correctly. Now we're going to mock up this caliper. Now we can see how it's going to line up. Alright, next we're going to put on this snap ring, or this retaining ring. That's what holds the axle where it needs to be. There's a ring on the axle that sits right outside the hub where it goes through. In the instructions it says you want the metal the spring to face outboard. Alright, got that in. It was a little tough, but I was able to get it. But I got that in, so now I'm going to throw in the locking hub. That'll secure this end of it. Alright, so to put on the manual locking hub, to give you an O-ring, that O-ring sits right in this groove. And we're going to put on our O-ring. And now with the O-ring on, we're going to make sure it's locked, which it is. Going to make sure we're going to have some teeth engaged. Start sliding it over in evenly to make sure you don't pinch the seal that's inside. You're going to want to make sure you're pushing evenly around this lip. Just press it on. After a fiasco with yesterday, trying to find the correct caliper bolts, I ended up finding them. These were M12 by 175, I believe. Got those. Now the caliper is installed. What you're looking for is a 3/8 by 24 banjo bolt. So we got two washers. We got one top, two copper washers, one for the top and one for the bottom. We're gonna thread it by hand. Make sure we catch those threads correctly. We do not want to strip this. And then we got a 9/16. And there you go. Now your caliper is on. I'm going to go over everything, make sure it's all tight before we bleed the brakes. Don't mind the spare. That's just until we get another one of those wheels, since the other one flew away somewhere. So I just took it on a test drive, and she's all good now. Everything runs and drives smoothly. I went to a dirt path, put the four wheel drive in, and she works fine. No binding, no nothing. And the brakes are all good, no leaking. And yeah, overall it's good. And that's how you rebuild this whole left front of the suspension. Y'all have a good one.